Hello YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. This is part 2 of regarding just kind of putting some info out there for you guys, some more reassuring regarding groceries and that sort of thing. And so I started this just a little bit ago, but had to use the bathroom. I don't like these interruptions, so I should be okay now. So I was to mention that there are some very strange and weird diets that seem to be just propping up, coming quite a bit, thousands of them. It's hard to keep up with all the new diets. And I mentioned this in another video before, but I'm going to say how nutty the field of nutrition is right now. You have people that are eating one kind of food and one kind of food only, thinking that's somehow going to help them. Or they're using their bodies as guinea pigs in this regard. You have all the diets, of course, that have to do with processed food that is pre-packaged, pre-made, frozen, which is not really a good idea in a lot of respects, no matter how promising the loss of weight is. You have diets that mainly involve consumption of one type of food group. So you will have somebody that, I think this is pretty rare, but you might have some people that only eat fruit, or only eat vegetables, or only eat potatoes. It's kind of similar to what I mentioned before, or some kind of combination of two different food groups, or only eat meat. I don't think there's anybody that only eats cheese or dairy, but it's pretty crazy. But then, or only eats. Gandhi only ate lentils when he's older, but that was when he's an old man. He didn't have very much need for energy, I guess, at that point. Who knows? But there's some really weird diets out there. You don't need to have a weird diet to be healthy. And the best diets are involving the healthiest foods with the widest variety of them. And then if you need a lot of calories, okay, you can get those calories, but try to get those calories again from foods that are more nutrient dense, or somewhat more nutrient dense, that are also real foods, not manufactured foods, as much as possible. So it boggles my mind that you have people out there that are only eating sweet potatoes, which you can do worse than sweet potatoes. Or sweet potatoes, bananas, and water. Those are the only three foods they have. It makes more sense maybe to stick to several foods. That's what you do. But if you add more variety to diet, you do better in general. Again, if you're talking about healthy, natural foods. So I don't also put a lot of stock in the one type of manufactured food that's coming from one guy in Massachusetts. Some kind of, anyway, I can't think of what the name of it is now, but it's this. People get these boxes of this food that's supposed to have every nutrient you need, and it's kind of tastes like oatmeal. That's all they eat, and that's just depressing. But it saves money. What the heck? That's just stupid. Anyway, I think I never saw much value in that whole thing. Anyway, so let's get into this a little bit more here. I'm going to talk a bit more. I mentioned, I'm trying to think about this topic here a little bit differently. Here goes, though. I'm just going to jump right into it. So, I'm going to start with the foods that have the highest, or the densest calories first, and then go from there. So, we'll start with the filling foods. These are the things when you're going shopping, you're like, hungry. Right? Or you want to get, I need food for my tummy, right? But yeah, you want to make sure you get filling food. You only have some time of the day. You want to Make sure you get the stuff that's gonna, fuel the body. So let's start with beef. Why not? So to be honest, don't really get grass-fed beef very often. I don't. I actually get high animal welfare rating beef. Well, that's right. Grass-fed beef is really expensive. If it has a high animal welfare rating. I'm trying to say that again. Clearly, if it has a high animal welfare rating, I will get that beef. It tastes great. I like my beef to have some marbling, and it doesn't have to be ribeye. I don't get ribeyes very often at all anymore. I just don't. They're very expensive. I get trips. I'll get flanks. I'll get sirloins. I'll get steaks. I'll get tri-tips. I'll get chucks. But more than anything, I look for brown spots. And in places where the meat is touching itself. I mean, if a place where brown spots can form, okay. I don't want to see. I don't want to get a steak and see a section of meat that's kind of going bad. Like I'm just gonna turn that stuff. It's nasty. I don't like brown spots. It's becoming my number one thing I hate in beef, to see that kind of stuff. So I had a lot of success, again, with PCC Natural Markets, but less so with other stores. So I don't get beef. I just don't get beef unless it's a really good store that I trust wholly. I just don't. It's nothing. I mean, nothing more disappointing than opening a beef and it smells like. It's just like, what is this? Oh my gosh. Anyway, so, okay. Beef is often on my list. It is. If it has good marbling, if it's red, there's no brown spots or, and it has good marbling and it's, a decent cut and, it's often on my list. Now, there's also pork, right? Pork, I will get probably... Here, it won't be all the time, but it helps you save money, and it's not as healthy even as beef, but it's not really that far away. But lots of flavor. And I've noticed, of course, that if you get very healthier pork, it has a different flavor, of course, than your, really fatty conventional pork. I think they're both great, but it's the conventional pork that a lot of people will have more trouble with. And I've seen those nasty videos about worms and pouring Coke on pork and having those little worms pop up, and I just oh my gosh. But it's like, I cook that stuff. I cook my pork really thoroughly without getting too dried out. But your higher quality pork is still going to be a good idea a lot of times. But pork is sometimes on my list. I still think beef and pork are important to get in your diet. Myself, personally. Because they're so calorie dense. And they have a lot of things that you need. A lot of zinc and a lot of, vitamins and that sort of thing. A lot of stuff. And certainly protein and that sort of thing. And the healthier cuts are going to have omega-3s. Stuff that's, good for your brain. So, let's talk about eggs. Eggs. You want to get organic eggs because they're affordable. They should be affordable. And, you need those omega-3s and that choline and that iodine and all other stuff. Egg has so many different nutrients in it. It's one of the healthiest animal foods you can get. And it's somewhat more calorie dense, too. It's a no-brainer. You just get an egg. And it's really easy to make as long as you don't overcook it. And, it's not as dense, not as healthier even than in some respects than beef or pork. And it's a lighter food. It's can give you less issues. Don't even think about that cholesterol crud. That doesn't even... Eggs, for how much nutrients are in them, are absolutely worth it. And those yolks, eat them. They taste good. They're the stuff that you get in your system. Maybe not too many of them, but yeah, definitely have some eggs. They should be on your list like every other grocery list, or every other shopping trip, or every third shopping trip. They should be on your list. Beef, pork, and eggs. And really, with all these three foods, they don't have to be on your list every single time. They probably shouldn't. Right? Chicken might be on your list every other week or every other grocery trip, or even every trip. Chicken is cheaper even if it's organic chicken, and for me, I find it's moderately filling. I don't get the skins really, so I save on calories. We get the dark chicken, which it is healthier somewhat. Again, not as many calories, so it's not as filling, but it's gonna be healthier. And I find chicken and turkey are great. They're great sources of protein and other things. So, I mean, that should be on your list. And any of these things, if you truly don't like them, don't worry about it. But getting to all this other stuff here, it's all the other types of meats. Between them, like sausages or bacon, and you can have actual other kinds of animals, I haven't mentioned that you might find on occasion in stores that are usually a little bit more expensive, like rabbit and lamb, of course, is more commonly found. You have all different types of seafood. We'll get to fish here, that's a different thing in just a bit, but you'll have sometimes others, like you have bison and things. I think it's great to get those things on occasion here and there, or, if you want to get something a little bit nicer. Some people get like a ham, or they'll get corned beef, or they'll get... Just keep in mind that each of these different types of meats, the meat in general, are filling. And so, in anything that's cured, processed, and corned, and smoked, and it's not going to be as healthy a lot of times. But lamb, it's grass-fed lamb, it's pricey. That's going to be a little bit better for you than most of the stuff I just mentioned. Now you can also have like things like chicken sausage and turkey sausage and bacon with no nitrites, things, but it is still bacon. But some stuff is going to be not that bad for you. If you ever buy bacon, get turkey bacon, or if you have the pork type bacon, make sure it has no nitrites. Even though that uncured stuff is more expensive, it actually is worth it to get. Because that stuff, you don't want that stuff in your system. It's worse than MSG. If you get it in your system, it can make you have trouble with... Well, anyway. So, we all want to be able to have all parts of our body in good order. Okay, so, I won't get into that too much right now. So, I really think that you should get some meat in your system if you are cool with that. It's just, you get enough fuel for your body. Tastes great. That's why we get it. It's appetizing, right? It doesn't take any discipline to say, hey, I want some beef today. And it actually is for you. You just don't want to have it all the time. So fish is also a no-brainer, and it's good to mix it up. If you have beef or poultry one, have some fish the next day, or it's not as filling, but maybe it's okay to not be stuffed, kind of thing. So there's so many different kinds of fish. I think you guys know about the mercury thing already. Just keep in mind that it's a good thing to know about the kinds of fish that have lower mercury levels, like herring and sardines and rock cod and salmon, it's wild caught, and so on and so forth. You don't want to get shark. You don't want to get swordfish. I don't think you want to get marlin either. When it comes to tuna, a little bit is fine, but I don't think tuna is a very wise choice increasingly. But, a little bit goes, just don't get the albacore. Don't get the albacore. Now, not also very calorie dense, maybe not quite as appetizing. So soaking in them is a better idea if you get a whole bunch in your system, if they're a major part of your diet. Otherwise, I think, I don't care too much about phytic acid. I don't think it really does much to you. I mean, I think it actually does good things for you as well. So, I just don't worry about it. I get lots of calcium and, all stuff. my system that I need and take supplements sometimes, and I'm fine. But I think soaking them is a good idea if you have the time, and or let's say you want less meat, and you want to get more nuts and beans as part of that substitution. Maybe soaking them is a better idea in that case. I think almonds and peanuts can help stretch your budget a little bit. Or you can, if you get the walnuts and peaches and cashews and things, and Brazil nuts and hazelnuts. I mean, when it comes to hazelnuts, by the way, I get hazelnuts in farmers markets. I don't like hazelnuts in the bulk bins. They don't taste as good. They're just sitting out. And I don't buy peanuts, but I'm sure you guys can get them if you want to. I just get walnuts, almonds, cashews, pistachios, and peanuts mainly. And Brazil nuts are great for selenium, but they just don't taste amazing either. Very good for you though, but they make you thirsty, I think. It's just, anyway, and seeds are a similar thing, pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and the other types of seeds. I just think the nice thing about nuts, at least if you don't have a whole lot of them all the time, is that it can last you quite a while. So even though you can spend a bit on them, you get them, they'll last you for sometimes up to half a year, depending how much nuts you eat, But anyway, I think it's a good idea to get nuts, supplement your diet, these minerals and things. Now beans are even more of something I just stretch out for years sometimes. Beans are great. They're not very appetizing, so I just don't eat them very often, other than green beans and peas. But and I don't really have too much trouble with gas. I think if you are not, it's just a question of you use the water that you cook them in. Anyway, it's basically if there's a way that you can avoid the whole gassy thing, and it's all look it up how you do that. But I think it has something to do with using all the water when you're cooking beans, or having the beans soak up all the water somehow, that sort of thing. But so moving along here, still calorie dense types of foods. I've used oils. I've switched over to butter recently. I think I'll go back to kind of a combination between the two. I'm not entirely convinced that ghee butter is the only way to go. I still think using avocado oil is a okay thing to do. With coconut oil, both those two. So an oils and lard, and they're probably the most calorie dense of all foods, I think. So going to it's middle of the road, calorie wise. You definitely get some fruit in your system. Fruit should be on your grocery list every single time. Nuts and beans don't have to be there every time, unless it depends on again how much you eat of those things. But for me, they're not on my grocery list very often. Some kind of animal food that's meat, poultry, fish, or egg. Something is on my grocery list from that arena, and I don't really consume conventional dairy or grass-fed dairy. I use almond milk and a little bit of ghee butter sometimes, but that's about as far as it goes. Grass-fed yogurt might be something to consider. I just have trouble with digesting casein, so I don't do dairy that way so much. But so, but yeah, fruit should be on your list every single grocery. This might be the highlights of some meals you have. So by all means, get the fruits that you like the most, and make sure to get a fair amount of them. And they won't last forever, so it's probably good to kind of keep in mind how much you might think that you'll eat, as well as what kinds of fruits you'll tend to eat more of. And apples, you don't have to get a whole bunch of them unless you're crazy about them. Just get a few of them if you want. Like, get more oranges, or more grapes, or get more nectarines. Or, if you know those nectarines, make sure that you have them sit out for just a few days and ripen a bit, right? A bit longer. And avocados, I guess, are kind of a vegetable fruit crossover. Sometimes they turn out great, sometimes not. But yeah, I mean, unless you have something against fruit, get your fruit. You can get the stuff that tastes the best. You'll berries. You'll if you only get like I don't know. If you buy fruit that you're not crazy about, it's a good chance that you might not eat all of it before it goes bad, right? This is especially true with the next group, vegetables, right? Get your frozen vegetables. If you get fresh vegetables, make sure you'll eat them. Right? They're cheap, and so you're not losing a whole lot. But what I've noticed about vegetables is that if you eat them, you'll stay healthy. I mean, even if you're pretty sedentary, vegetables are amazing for you. I mean, fruits are the same, yes, but vegetables are like they're better than taking medicine. Like if you have salad a day, or even every other day, if you have cooked, peas and beans and broccoli and cauliflower, and you're eating them every day, your body's gonna be like, yeah, you're gonna be in great shape. Eating your vegetables just takes care of so many things. It's not like you're not invincible. I mean, you could feel like you're 20 until you're 80 years old. If you get some exercise and you eat a lot of vegetables, I mean, you can. That's the most important. It should be on your grocery list, just in terms of your health. But we're working down to the foods now that have the lowest amount of calories. But even if they have the lowest amount of calories, you have to eat your greens. Let's look at Brock Lesnar when he gets to be an old man. At least he's having his greens now. I know I've mentioned this before in other videos, but you're not getting your vegetables. I know they don't taste amazing. Just buy the ones that are frozen that don't taste amazing. Try to choke them down. Then get some carrots and celery and some corn and stuff, and make sure it's organic if you get corn, right? But get some tastier vegetables. Get some onions, potatoes. I know they're starchy, but get the stuff that you're actually going to eat. Eat them, right? Mix your meat with your vegetables so that vegetables taste better. All that stuff. You make sure to get that stuff in your system. I mean, if you get a lot of fruit, like I do, I mean, it's great for taste. It's great for, washing your whole body when it's really hot, like in the summer, you don't have air conditioning. The fruit is amazing for you, but fruit on its own, I'm talking to the fruitarians out there. I know, you have pretty cool guys like, let's see here. What's his name again? Mr. Carr. I can never remember everybody's full name. You have people out there that are fruitarians, and it might function better, somewhat, if it's in the tropics. If you're in the tropics, being vegetarian. If you're in the temperate areas, you probably get some greens in there as well. But the thing is that yes, it's true. We don't need a ton of protein, but I've never seen a muscly fruitarian. And muscle actually is good for you. It's a good thing to have. I'm not saying you have to have Arnold Schwarzenegger levels of muscle, but trying to build muscle on a fruitarian diet is almost impossible. So, I don't recommend fruitarianism to anyone. Maybe if you live in the Philippines and you're eating a lot of things, a mix of things like rice and pineapple and durian and, pomegranate and, so maybe not just, papaya and mango, as well as, breadfruit or, again, that durian's going to be very important. But you're eating some fruits that have some actual protein in them, right? Maybe even avocado and stuff. And maybe some fish along with that. So, I mean, that's a pretty decent diet right there. So, herbs and spices are great. They're always good to buy. Every single time you go shopping, you should have several different kinds of fruits and vegetables that you're going to eat. And you should also have a handful of other kinds of foods as well. But getting more plant foods will help your budget. And you can go to a cheaper grocery store. You can get okay quality produce But it's okay to, keep in mind your experience going to different stores and how good or not so good different kinds of produce tastes. You don't have to get a whole bunch of one kind of produce. You can get a few grapefruits, you can get a few oranges, a few nectarines, a few berries, a few apples, a few... It depends on, of course, if you're, if a big family you have to feed, or just single, or, married or something, all this stuff. But you can get, a few cucumbers, a few carrots, just 1 or 2, 3 or 4. You don't have to get 12 or 16 one thing unless you really love something and you really, for sure that one thing you're getting is they're all amazing. Now, you can go shopping and get a whole bunch of meat, which actually makes a lot of sense because just like frozen vegetables, that meat, if it's going to be frozen, it'll last a long time. So that might be a good way to go, even though it's a little more expensive. But again, you want to make sure that, especially if it's beef, and I've noticed this so much, those brown spots just drive me crazy. I just can't stand seeing that nasty stuff, and you're spending all that money on that meat. It just makes me furious. And so maybe get some more fish or chicken or something. I just, you spend $10 on a decent steak. That steak needs to be red. It needs to be red, well marbled. It needs to be good to go. It should not have anything weird about it. I mean, I'm actually at a point, I mentioned this before in another video, where I'm going to chew out butcher block next time that something happens wherever I go. If I end up seeing around and I actually have to go back to the store and explain what happened, man, I might even get kicked out of a store for how mad I might be just spending a certain amount of money on this stuff. As it is, for the meat that would have brown spots, I've ended up giving them to my landlord or my other roommates. I mean, there's ways that I handle it so that, the meat is good use. But, folks, I mean, I like Trader Joe's, but man, they've been pulling some fast ones recently, and I'm not saying yell at your butcher block. I'm just saying, I mean, if there's an department, if you're spending more money, obviously you'd spend more money with meat. So hold those guys higher standard. At least, maybe not the workers necessarily, but the manager, the guy who oversees the quality of the meat. You talk to him and you say, if I spend $50 to $100 on a shopping trip on meat, that meat needs to be darn high quality. It is not acceptable to have any brown spots, right, on beef anymore. I mean, we have these high quality grocery store states with all the other types of grocery stores. We have a lot of competition. If you claim to be a high quality store and you're selling this cruddy meat, I'm gonna, here on a refund, money back. I'm telling people about this. If I'm not happy, I don't know. I know it takes a lot for me to be that upset, But part of me is just I will not settle for second quality. I'm not saying I have to have prime cuts. That's not what I'm saying. Or prime versus choice versus That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I just don't want any brown spots on beef. Right? For me, beef is kind of like. It's kind of like chocolate mousse. Yeah, the fancier food, right? Comparatively, it's more expensive. It makes sense to me for someone to regularly have something like eggs or chicken if they're eating something animal food related. Or milk, for some people that do like a lot of dairy. So eggs and chicken and milk are among the cheaper kinds of animal foods. And so, but yeah, when it comes to beef, I mean, ground beef is a little different. Ground beef is middle of the road. It's it's not too bad. But steaks are like chocolate mousse. You want chocolate mousse, right? You want your filet mignon. You want your chocolate mousse to be amazing tasting, right? Why would beef be any different? Beef is like that. It's in that category. We're not talking Again, that ridiculously priced goose, duck is way up there as well. But beef is up there, right? Unless it's some cheap chuck steak, still really red. But, chuck is getting down. It's in that ground beef range almost. But stand up for your beef if you are big beef guys. Anyway, so I've gone through kind of all the basic food groups for you guys. I've gone through a little bit more of my own thoughts about these things. And, it is true that you can really stretch a budget and be nutritious and everything if you get a lot of potatoes and sweet potatoes and things like, rice and quinoa. And if you do bread and beans and peanuts and peanut butter and jelly and stuff. Stuff for stews, mixed stews and soups and things. All that stuff, it's out there online. It definitely helps you save money, for sure. And more vegetables and just a little bit of meat for flavoring. It all pays off to help save money. Banana and grapefruit and melons, a lot of cheaper stuff. I guess what you don't want to do in your grocery trips and stuff. What you don't want to do, you want to get a lot of stuff that isn't going to do anything for you. It's just in your budget. Think you like if you have any doubts about your grocery list, think how Bruce Lee would think. Bruce Lee. Now, of course, you probably are going to be a little bit more inclined to have youth or want more flavors than Bruce Lee. But Bruce Lee was just like, if it doesn't do anything for me, I'm going to eat it, right? I can consume it. Everything he consumed did something for him. So a lot of East Asians are really into green teas and black teas and things. Okay, I don't do tea, but I'm like, tea was about the most unhealthy thing, in a way that Bruce Lee ever really consumed, as far as I know. And that was a cultural thing almost. The Chinese love their tea, so a lot of times. But the thing is, he was having rice and some very, very lean eggs and meat and fish and things and vegetables. Rice, vegetables, some kind of animal protein, but more we're talking like eggs, fish, meat, and occasionally poultry and things. But a lot of fish though, and a lot of egg with a little bit of meat. Probably he had the meat for the protein and things, but Bruce didn't really eat a ton of fruit. I saw him. He probably get a lot of his carbohydrates from things like rice. And never had any sweets. Never had any soda. Really, I think what. So it's good to think like Bruce, because Bruce really was one of the healthy people in his diet overall. If there's something that's kind of an extra, have that extra as make sure that it's the tastiest little out there. So if you absolutely just love that licorice, it's black licorice. And black licorice has some good stuff to it. Has a little bit of calcium, a little bit of iron. Maybe go with that black licorice, but have just a few things that are like that. It just depends, but you don't want to end up having every shopping trip 15 different things that are just junky. And the thing is too, and I'm going to try to keep this in mind for the future, when you have whoever your living situation is with, imagine a husband and wife, two is a lot more unhealthy than the other one. That can put some strain on a marriage. But even, if one person is always eating donuts, the other guys are going to want some donuts, right? Because they're very tasty, but everyone knows they're healthy, right? So you might actually have someone that just doesn't have that stuff ever, and they just, they're going to look at that person like they're smoking crack, right? It's a drug. So, but everybody can smell pizza and smell fried chicken, and everybody can smell, there's some very tasty food. Like curry is actually one of those amazing foods that is healthy for you, but it tastes and smells amazing. It's very strong smelling perhaps sometimes. But anyway, there's just situations where it's always easier when your living situation is with a person you're married to or whatever, or roommates are like you, and if some butterball is always having greasy fatty foods, you're going to smell that stuff all the time. Yeah, I know, it makes it hard. If you're a vegan, perhaps it's easy to live with another vegan or to live with a nutritarian. And if you ever, nutritarians sometimes rarely have animal foods. I mean, they'll have just a little bit of, they'll probably chop up their fish, little fish bits on a salad, along with just basically plant foods with a little bit of animal food flavoring, like some chopped egg on there. That's all the animal foods they'll have. Okay, so just to sum up, this is just meant to be a reassuring thing.